Hi, and welcome back to the 28 Days of Play. This is our way of making it through the wretched month of February with creative sessions to help bring some joy and make our hearts smile during these winter months. But the good news is you can come to this on whatever day you have found this little tutorial and feel free to play. Today's prompt is all about letting your brush wonder like it's curious. And I just absolutely love this prompt because it inspires me to want to treat my creative session more like an experiment and less like some planned work of perfection. And so today I'm just approaching it with that heart of like, what if? What if? So today I started with some India ink and I made myself an impromptu brush out of some yarn that was calling to me. And I swiped that across my page. And as always, you have to let India ink dry completely before you go back on it with wet materials. But the cool thing is it's waterproof. So once it has dried, it's pretty permanent. Then I started playing with some watercolors to see what that would look like. And now I'm grabbing a silicone squeegee and I've grabbed a little bit of transparent mixing white and some different colors I had on my palette. I usually tend to just play with like whatever colors are already out from something else I've been working on or just whatever is close at hand. I tend to just try and make it work. So I'm grabbing some more of the mixing white, and you can see the awesome thing about mixing white or transparent white is that you can see the layers that are underneath, and so it's not like you're losing the work that is under. Instead, you're kind of just pushing it backwards a little bit, which is really fun. And I love the way I can put down paint so quickly with this squeegee, but it's not fussy, it's not perfect. I'm not trying to be careful. I'm really just pushing colors around. I picked up some blue here because I thought blue is a nice contrast to orange, and I'm not really sure where this particular little creative exercise is headed. But every response that I'm making is really just in response to what has come before it. I really have no destination in mind, no plan as usual. I'm usually just playing and being very intuitive, listening to my own creative spirit and the way that it calls to me. And you guys have got to be cringing at this point, but I wanted to pick up some of this watercolor. And it's so funny because you usually don't do watercolor over acrylic, but I was curious just to see what would happen. So since I'm letting my curiosity lead, I'm playing with mixing the watercolor into the acrylic. And it's definitely creating sort of like a beading effect on top of it because it's not soaking into the acrylic completely. But I'm okay with it. I'm just playing here. Now I'm playing with maybe making some marks with this brush, and who knows, maybe these could turn into leaves or they could turn into small flowers. I really just try to follow lines and shapes and just let the colors shift. The wonderful thing about painting is that you're not really limited, you know, as long as you want to continue to build layers, you can keep working one on top of the other until you get to a place where you feel really happy. I see all these moments, like I don't really stress out, I guess. I used to super stress when I would get to these points where I was like, I don't love this. But what I think now is like, well, what opportunity does this present for me? So for me, I was like, well, maybe if I just create some florals out of the marks that I already have there, you know. So instead I just try to reframe a lot of those questions in my mind. And instead of saying, you know, like, oh, this is not working well, it's like, well, okay, now what does it allow me to do that I couldn't have done if those marks weren't there? And so that's the way that I start to play in my mind. And it's amazing what comes when you just give space for the artwork to take shape like in its own time. I like to think about it like letting your brush ask questions, trying things on. These are all metaphors you can think about when you're painting in this way. But I'm feeling like maybe this is the direction that I want to go. And so a lot of my marks now are sort of just in response to what was emerging on the page. I'm seeing these 3 flowers and I'm trying to decide like what do those need to look like, but I don't want to commit really early, so I'm just still giving space for a lot of play, a lot of curiosity, and trying not to overthink. Now that I have a direction, I'm trying not to just go, okay, I don't want to get in that brain space. I want to stay in my heart space and just be really playful with all the marks that I'm making. So I tried this piece because I was like, well, what if I'd gotten these little chalk pastels and I honestly hadn't played with them yet. But I love just the texture and the color and just how vivid they are. And so I got them out and just started playing and asking myself like, well, what if I put chalk pastels over this? What would happen? And I was actually really loving some of the results that were happening, but I just was trying to keep everything moving quickly. It's just it's such a muscle that you have to learn to work with, you know. You have to really flex it because embracing imperfection is harder than it looks. And I know it has been like an incredible journey for me to let go of like this need for everything to be perfect. But I think when we can really embrace imperfection, that's when we can really start to find some really cool stuff and just finding our own voice as an artist and then let that shine through. So much of painting intuitively is all about just that focus on discovery rather than focusing on perfection. And you can see here I put some like a spray fixative over the top, and all of a sudden all my colors went super dull, and then that made me sad. So I tried to brighten them up again, but that didn't really work out as well as I had hoped. So, you know, we just keep moving forward. It's just one of those things, right? But there's something really fun that happens when we do let go of control and we can just give space for other really beautiful things to emerge. I was liking this depth of color in the centers of the flowers. And so that's just how you have to refocus yourself. It's like, well, what am I enjoying? What is working for me? What do I want to continue to move forward? So again, I picked up my acrylics. I decided that maybe I wasn't sure what to do with the pastels. So I picked up the acrylics and just started playing again. And I'm spending a lot of time just pausing and thinking too, and just asking some of those questions of, you know, what am I enjoying? I tend to hold my brush too just super loosely when I'm just playing, because I feel like then it has an opportunity to create more like organic shapes. One of my go-tos always when I have a piece that's feeling a little flat is to pull out some fluorescent, whether it's fluorescent pink or fluorescent orange or fluorescent red. I feel like there's such a pop of luminosity, especially if you mix it with a little white. And so that was what I did here. I just mixed a little white and I think probably some of the red that I was using, and just really started to play with that again. And then it really helps to bring those layers forward when you can do that. There's a fine line definitely between moving a painting forward and overworking. So this is definitely one that I was trying to be super careful, and that's why I am holding my brush really loosely, is I did not want to get into that space where I was trying to make all these little details that were, you know, perfect. I wanted to just suggest petals. And so I started creating all these little marks, and I was honestly kind of loving that. I was loving that there were these small moments that were happening. I added some green gold to my palette there, and you can see that I also tried to echo some of that deep value in the center of the flowers back out into the leaves behind them. I always feel like when you have dark, it's an opportunity to add light on top of it, and so that's kind of what I'm doing now, is bridging some of those layers and just finding some moments. I don't want to lose all that dark blue behind, but I'm just finding some moments to pull in a little bit more of the greenery, kind of just cuddled up to these florals. I'm just wondering, like, as you are painting today and you're following your own internal guide, you know, that we all have, I'm just wondering what kind of questions you're asking yourself. Like, what kind of curiosity did you follow, and how is that surprising you today? I also wanted to mention too, this is an earlier video that I had done before I had really thought about putting this on YouTube. And so the format that I filmed it in was really more for Instagram. And so, but I felt like showing it to you guys in this way, I liked better, because I felt like you could see what I was doing. Even though the painting on it is technically on its side, I felt like it still illustrated the process that I was doing pretty well. So I left it this way. I hope that's not totally like a YouTube faux pas, but here we are. Now I'm just working towards those brighter layers. And so I'm going in with some cat yellow. I'm bringing back in some of those pops of color and trying to figure out ways to bring that in so I can still create these little moments, combining some of that yellow on top of the flowers, and see these tiny little brush strokes I'm making. And that's just something that I don't normally paint that way, but on this particular day it just felt right. And so I'm just making these little tiny brush strokes, deciding where some of this color needs to live. And so much of what I do and what I teach my students to do is just listening to, like, what is that next right step? You know, it's like so much of our lives, right? I feel like it's such a metaphor for life, of like, we have no idea what tomorrow holds, but I know what I want to do in the next 30 seconds, right? And so to me, there's like a beautiful comfort in that. So what I'm doing here is I felt like the white that I added was too much of a jump. So I was going back in and kind of blending those out a little bit with a color that was in between, and that was feeling much, much better to me. I mean, I agree. This is a strange, strange path I have taken on this particular painting session, right? Like, if this is where I knew I wanted to go, it probably would have not been the journey that I chose to get here. But nonetheless, I've really enjoyed it all. And to me, all those marks tell a story. And so I'm so glad it's all there. And so I'm just following again those little marks that I was making, just creating more of those with the greenery that's on my floral. It's time to pull the tape and see what we have. Oh, I think this is really precious. This particular painting and its discoveries and the patience and the curiosity continue to influence so many of the paintings that were created throughout this month of play. And so I just encourage you, I mean, it's not always a straight path, right? It's curiosity has a way of wandering in all sorts of directions, but I encourage you to let your paintbrush wander with curiosity today. Happy painting.